The Provocation of Filth, Part 1, by W.E. Jenkins. It's been miles since they passed the last interstate nexus. 4 guys in a van way out in West Texas. A big storm was brewing on the horizon. Rain starts to pound over plains full of bison. The guys had trekked hundreds of miles in their van. Dull, endless hours of flat, open land. The boys were musicians, a death metal band. Their group was on tour playing shows for their fans. The band pressed on in their van bearing west until the engine starts knocking and comes to a rest. Mass engine failure on the side of the road had left the guys stranded in New Mexico. Out in the desert with minimal hope, the band starts to travel on foot down the road. They locked up the van and they started to march, not knowing which way would be best to embark. There were no gas stations for dozens of miles. There were no mechanics out there in the wild. The band walked on, trying to outrun the weather. The storm followed them from Texas, and they needed shelter. For hours, they walked with no other cars in sight. Their original plan was to try and hitchhike. The highway gave them no luck, so they went off-road. They hiked through the desert for an hour or so. It started to rain, thunder off in the distance. They passed some old pastures with old wooden fences. Lightning began to ignite across the sky. Like spiderwebs through the clouds, the electrical light. The skies turned dreary gray and the rain became heavy. The threat of flash floods made the guys miss their Chevy. They passed a few shacks that had since been abandoned. No humans in sight. In Badlands. Left, they were stranded. Suddenly, a stroke of luck had been found. The band found a sealed hatch built into the ground. The hatch wasn't locked, the boys had found shelter. At the least, it was a place to wait out the weather. They opened the hatch to expose a dark tunnel. It bore into the ground, somewhat shaped like a funnel. It was dark in that hole, but each man had his phone. They had a light source from their screens, and at least they weren't alone. Ladder rungs protruded from the inner walls of the shaft the entire way down. The musicians climbed in and made their way underground.